Latvia, 1845. A prestigious boarding school for the daughters of nobility. 42 students are sitting in a classroom, and they're all watching their teacher. In two places at once. Her name was Émilie Sagée, and what happened to her wasn't a ghost story. It wasn't a legend passed down through generations. It was something witnessed, documented, and never explained. Imagine you're a 13-year-old student. You're looking out the window, watching your teacher pick flowers in the garden. Then you turn around, and she's sitting at the front of the room. Same dress, same hair, same woman. But when you try to touch her, your hand passes through something that feels like thick cobwebs, like fabric made of air. This isn't folklore. 42 students saw it happen simultaneously. Their accounts were identical, and it nearly destroyed an entire school. The Pensionnat von Neuwelcke was no ordinary school. It was an exclusive institution in what is now Latvia. Only daughters of Livonian nobility attended. Reputation was everything. In 1845, they hired a new French teacher. Émilie Sagée was 32 years old, intelligent, well-educated, by all accounts an excellent instructor. There was just one problem. Émilie Sagée had been dismissed from 18 teaching positions before this one. 18 schools, 18 unexplained departures, and she was about to discover why. The first incidents were small, subtle. During lessons, students would notice something strange about their teacher. As she wrote on the chalkboard, they'd see her standing right beside herself. Not a shadow, not a reflection. Another Émilie, same dress, same movements, but slightly out of sync, like an echo you could see. One afternoon, a student named Antoinette watched Émilie stand before a mirror, adjusting her hair. The reflection moved differently, fixed its collar when Émilie didn't. Word spread through the dormitories, whispers at night, girls asking each other, "Have you seen it?" The double, the other her. The thing that walks beside our teacher. But what made the Sagée case different, what elevated it from rumor to documented phenomenon, was the number of witnesses. Dozens of them, all seeing the same thing. One classroom incident stood out. Émilie was teaching a French lesson. 13 students were present. All 13 later gave identical accounts of what happened that day. As she wrote conjugations on the board, her double appeared beside her. Same chalk, same motion. But one of them, the real one, looked pale, exhausted, like something was being drained from her. But the incident that made history, the one that would be documented by 3 separate authors decades later, happened on a summer afternoon in 1846. 42 students were gathered in a large classroom for needlework. Through the tall windows, they could see Émilie Sagée in the garden below, picking flowers. The regular teacher had left the room briefly. The chair at the front of the class was empty. And then, it wasn't. 42 students watched as Émilie Sagée materialized in the chair at the front of the room, same dress she was wearing in the garden, same posture, same expression. She just appeared. They could still see the real Émilie through the window. She was still in the garden, still picking flowers, still completely unaware that another version of herself was sitting 20 meters away. 2 of the braver students approached the figure. One reached out to touch it. Her hand didn't pass through exactly. It felt like pushing through thick fabric, or cobwebs made of nothing. And then, slowly, the double faded. Like morning mist burning off in sunlight. The students watched the chair become empty again. In the garden below, Émilie resumed her normal color. Her movements became more energetic. Émilie Sagée never saw her double. Not once. But she knew when it appeared. She'd feel suddenly drained, weak, like her energy was being pulled out of her body and given to something else. When students told her what had happened, that they'd seen her sitting in 2 places at once, Émilie's face went pale. She whispered something in French. Encore, it's happened again. She'd lost 18 positions before this. 18 schools in 18 different cities, and now she understood why. Her double had been following her, appearing beside her, driving her away. In the weeks following the incident, parents began withdrawing their daughters from the school. The letters arrived steadily. One family, then another, each citing the same reason, the stories their daughters were telling. Enrollment at the Pensionnat von Neuwelcke dropped from 42 students to 12. More than 70% of families pulled their daughters out of the school within months. The school had no choice. Despite her excellent teaching record, despite the students who genuinely admired her, Émilie Sagée was dismissed. For the 19th time. What happened to Émilie after she left the school? No one knows. She disappeared from the historical record. But the story of what happened at Neuwelcke, that survived. 14 years later, in 1860, an American writer named Robert Dale Owen published the account. He'd interviewed a direct witness, a former student named Julie de Guldenstube, now an adult. Julie was one of the 42 students who'd watched Émilie appear in the classroom that day. Decades later, her account remained clear, consistent, unshaken by time. Owen's account was later corroborated by two other prominent writers, the French astronomer Camille Flammarion and the Russian parapsychologist Alexander Aksakov. 3 separate publications. One witness. One extraordinary story. So what actually happened at that school? Skeptics have offered explanations. Mass hysteria, shared delusion, the power of suggestion spreading through impressionable young minds. Modern psychology has a term for it, heautoscopy, a neurological condition where a person hallucinates seeing their own image. It's rare, but it happens. But there's a problem with that explanation. Heautoscopy affects the person who sees the double. It's their hallucination, their neurological event. It doesn't explain why 42 other people saw it too. The case has no satisfying answer. It sits in that uncomfortable space between documented history and impossible event. Too well witnessed to dismiss, too strange to explain. What makes it remarkable isn't the phenomenon itself. Ghost stories are common. Doubles and doppelgangers appear in folklore everywhere. What makes this case unique is the evidence. 13 witnesses in one incident, 42 in another. Consistent testimony, multiple publications, a paper trail that lasted over a century. You don't usually get that with the unexplained. If this kind of story interests you, there's something worth knowing. The Sagée case became a template for how paranormal researchers approach documentation. Number of witnesses, consistency of accounts, contemporary records. The more witnesses, the harder to dismiss as individual hallucination. The more consistent the accounts, the harder to attribute to confusion or embellishment. That's what makes this case still cited in serious paranormal research. Whether you believe the events actually happened or not, there's value in the documentation method. Julie de Guldenstube gave her account years after the fact, but her precision never wavered. If you want to explore similar cases, look into the phenomenon of bilocation more broadly. Saints and mystics throughout history have been reported appearing in 2 places at once. The Sagée case is secular, but it's not alone. And if you're enjoying these kinds of stories, the strange ones, the ones that sit just outside explanation, consider subscribing. We dig into cases like this every week. The documented ones, the ones that make you wonder. In the end, what haunts me about the Sagée case isn't the double itself. It's Émilie. A woman who never saw what everyone else could see, who only knew something was wrong because of how tired she felt. Imagine living that life. Knowing that something attached to you, something you can't control, can't see, can't stop, is destroying everything you try to build. 19 schools, 19 times she had to pack her trunk and leave. 19 times she had to start over, knowing it would probably happen again. We don't know what happened to Émilie Sagée after she left the Pensionnat von Neuwelcke. She vanished from history. Maybe she found a place where her double didn't follow. Maybe she's still out there somewhere, doubled. The Pensionnat von Neuwelcke continued operating for decades after she left. The double was never seen again. But the students who witnessed it that summer day in 1846, they never forgot. 42 students, one teacher, and something else, something that still has no name. That's the story of Émilie Sagée. And now, it's yours.